Krishna, thank you all for joining in on this fine Sunday morning. We are resuming our study and discussion on the book titled as Teachings of Lord Chaitanya, the Golden Avatar. Let's offer prayers together and then we'll start the discussion. Om Ajnanatirmirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Vena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatai Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Shri Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Shri Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Shri Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna. So far we have read the preface and we have also discussed the prologue. Prologue, a brief life history of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu based on the writing of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. How many of you over here have attempted the quizzes, both for preface and the prologue? Hare Krishna. So, Jiva Jago, Gaura Chanda Bodhe. So, your prasadam will be served after you solve your quizzes. Okay? So, on the website, there is a course which you sign in. Are you all part of the Sadhaka group? You don't get notifications. Can we send the Sadhaka group information on the youth group? So, join that group and there you get notification about all this. So, there is a course created on the website. And for every discussion or for every chapter, there will be a quiz prepared. So all of you attempt the quiz. Once I see the report, the moment you attempt, I get the report. Then I will serve you prasadam. Until then, go on Nityananda. All right? So you fast. No compromise. For those of you online, I cannot apply this rule for all of you. So I can only ask, how many of you attempted? How many of you at least know that there is a quiz on the website which you can attempt? And how many of you have done it? Okay, some of you have done it. So do take your time and do solve it. If in case you're wondering if there is a registration fee, so don't worry, there's no registration fee. It's free of cost. So you can just sign in and do that. All right. So we'll begin from important note about Mayavad. Hare Krishna. What's going on? वो तुम लोग क्रिस क्रॉस कर रहे हो फिर बोलो कुछ भी नहीं वरना चुपचाप बैठो क्या चल रहा है all right send message पे आके send it ना उतना करके fine okay important note about Mayavad. We'll begin with that and then we'll read an introduction which is based on the lecture by Srila Prabhupada. Mayavadi bhashya shunile hoye sarvanasha Oh, that much line is there. Full verse is not there. I was in a full mood of reading the full verse. Okay. I've enabled the screen sharing. Somebody wants to share a screen. Chaitanya Chaitamrit Madhya Leela, 6 chapter 169 verse. Anyone who hears Mayavadi philosophy is doomed. Throughout his books, I got it? Important note about Mayavad. Is there in your books or no? Is there, right? Yeah. Right after prologue. Right after prologue. हाँ, अरे हाँ, वो तो आप लोग को मेमोराइज करना था. शिष्टाष्टकम. Thank you, Anshul Prabhu. And you were supposed to give a feast for those who gonna recite. Thank you for reminding me. मैंने कब कहा था पितृपक्ष के अवसर पे? I never said that. I said on the occasion of those who memorize all the shlokas and who says they have done it. So we're going to have a feast from Anshul Prabhu. Thank you for reminding Anshul Prabhu. So how many of you here have memorized or already know? उनको भी feast मिलेगा. Anshul Prabhu बड़े दिलदार आदमी है. So how many of you know? Okay, fantastic. Me too. Count. Make a count, huh? We're getting a feast for all of us. Okay. All right. Important note about Mayavas. So Prabhu, वो आपको homework दिया गया था. That's Shashtrakam. Throughout his book, Srila Prabhupada repeatedly speaks out against Mayavadis. The term Mayavadi is often misunderstood to mean a materialistic person who delights in pleasures of this world. But actually, Mayavadi means a follower of Mayavad. Vad means philosophy. Mayavad is another name for the Advait Vad of Adi Shankaracharya. Anyone would like to read? Rest, you gotta, if you want to speak, you have to be online. Others will not be able to hear. According to Mayavadis, Krishna and devotional service to him are products of Maya. They believe that everything is one and that the goal of spiritual life is to become one with God. They are also called as impersonalists. They think God is formless, Nirakar. They do not accept that the highest reality is the personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna. In different forms and names, Mayavad has spread throughout India and beyond. By diverting people's attention away from personality of Godhead, giving them the false hope that they can become one with God, Mayavad has created havoc in the spiritual life of the world. Therefore, Vaishnavacharya, especially Sripad Ramanuja, Sripad Madhavacharya, Bhagavan Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, staunchly oppose Mayavad. Using evidence from Shastra and common sense logic, they have systematically refuted Mayavad by exposing the numerous fallacies on which it is based. The correct understanding of the absolute truth is that Krishna is supreme. This is directly established by Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, and is thus accepted by all Vaishnava philosophers. Krishna is a supreme personality of Godhead. He is not formless. He is eternally situated in his transcendental form, Satchidananda Vigraha. The topmost understanding of transcendent reality is that God is a person and all the living beings are his servants eternally. Therefore, we should not try to become God, but simply accept our subordination and surrender to him. Srila Prabhupada, in the tradition of great acharyas, always stood opposed to Mayavad. He repeatedly and forcefully exposed the defects and absurdities inherent in it. Reference to Mayavad and Mayavadis are made throughout Srila Prabhupada's books, but for thorough analysis of the subject, readers should refer to this book, Teachings of Lord Chaitanya. So here we're going to get into the detail of the subject matter. All right, let's begin with the introduction. I'm not speaking anything about Mayavad at this point of time because this will be discussed elaborately. If in case you're still not clear, you're coming across this terminology for the first time, I would request you reread it. So you understand Maya, Vada, philosophy. It just says false philosophy. But the idea of their naming it Mayavad is not false philosophy, is to say everything is false. A philosophy which teaches us that everything is false is what called as Mayavad from the perspective of Mayavadis. And how do we call it? Your philosophy itself is false and your arguments are false. You are false. Everything else is true except for you. That is what we call Mayavad, like that.
This Mayavadi term coined by the Mayavadis or by the other people have given them?
Fantastic question. Let's discover what teaching the Lord Chaitanya says. I have no idea who coined it. Okay. Introduction. So it is based on the lectures given by Srila Prabhupada on the Chaitanya Charitamrita in New York City, April 10th to 14th, 1967. Wow. The word Chaitanya, what does meaning of Chaitanya? It means living force. Chaitanya, Chaitana. As living entities, we can move, but a table cannot because it does not possess living force. Movement and activity may be considered to be signs or symptoms of the living force. Indeed, it may be said that there can be no activity without the living force. Although the living force is present in the material condition, it is not Amrita, immortal. The words Chaitanya Charitamrita then may be translated as the character of the living force in immortality. Hare Krishna. All right, let's have the next paragraph. Madhuranjana, read the next paragraph.
But how is this living force displayed immortally? It's not displayed by man or any other creature.
The sound is not clear. It's kind of jumbled up. Try again.
Okay, but how is this living force displayed immortally? It's okay, Prabhuji?
Yes, this is better.
Okay. It's not displayed by man or any other creature in this material universe. For none of us are immortal in these bodies. We possess the living force, we perform activities, and we are immortal by our nature and constitution. But the material condition into which we have been put does not allow our immortality to be displayed. It is stated in Katha Upanishad that eternality and the living force belong both to ourselves and God. Although this is true in that both God and ourselves are immortal, there is a difference. As living entities, we perform many activities, but we have a tendency to fall down into material nature. God has no such tendency. Being all powerful, he never comes under the control of material nature. Indeed, material nature is but one display of his inconceivable energy.
So Prabhupada is talking about different energies of the Lord. Bahiranga Shakti and Jiva is also one of the energies of the Lord. On the ground, Prabhupada gives an example of how the clouds is nothing but an energy of the sun. Why? Because the clouds are created by the energy of the Lord, of the sun. On the ground, we see many clouds in the sky, but if we fly over the cloud, we can see the sun shining. From the skyscrapers, cities seem very tiny. Similarly, from God's position, this entire material creation is insignificant. The tendency of the conditioned living entity is to come down from the heights where everything can be seen in perspective. God, however, does not have this tendency. The Supreme Lord is not subject to fall down into illusion any more than the sun is subject to fall beneath the clouds. Because the Supreme Lord is not subject to illusion, he is unconditioned. Because we as finite living entities are prone to the fall into illusion, we are called conditioned. What does conditioning means? What does conditioning means? Prabhupada uses the word conditioning, conditioned living entity. What does it mean? What does conditioning means? We just recently discussed in Bhagavatam class. How many of you are available? I gave Bhagavatam class this Friday morning, right? Who all were available this Friday morning? I spoke so elaborately about what does conditioning means. Yes. So there are conditioning means when Brahma created this world, secondary creation, he created the conditions of this world. In any situation in any place in this world, the conditions applies. Isn't it? You go to your office, the condition applies. You go to school, the condition applies. You go to college, condition applies. You go to hospital, their conditions. Everywhere have their own conditions. You come to society, they have their own conditions. Similarly, when you come to this material world, the conditions applies. And who set those conditions? For a society, the chairman of the society set the condition, or the management body. For the hospital staff or the management sets the condition. Whoever is the organizer or the owner sets the condition. Similarly, Brahma is given this responsibility to manage and organize this world. He sets the condition. And we being part of this conditioned world, therefore are called as conditioned living entity. Understood? And there was the 5 or 6 types of conditioning which were described. This may be true of the living entity, but it's not true of God. For in all instances, which means we are conditioned by the conditioning, but Lord is not conditioned by the conditioning. Are you getting this? Example is if a manager enters, if you enter your company, the security guard is going to check you because that's a conditions applied, right? But when the CEO or the chairman or the director, whoever is the topmost position, if he enters, nobody going to check him. Conditions do not apply. He doesn't have to sit in his office for 8 hours, 10 hours clock, and then only he gets salary. No, but conditions apply for you. That's it, simple. So when Krishna comes here, Janma Karma Chame Divyam Evam Yoveti Tatvatha, the condition of birth and death does not apply on him because he's the one who created it. And therefore, Prabhupada explains this in many ways, like prison. We all are prisoners. So when the jailkeeper comes to the prison cell, the conditions of the prison house do not apply to him. His clothes are not changed. He is not given a facility in the prison house. Getting? Same way the concept is mentioned here. Those who consider the Supreme Lord to be the subject to material conditioning are called as avajananti mamura manusham tanumashitaha param bhavam ajananto mama bhuta mahishvara. 9th chapter, verse number 11. They are called as fools. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. All right, Mother Priyanka, read that paragraph.
Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu should not be considered to be one of us. He is Krishna himself, the supreme living entity, and as such he never comes under the cloud of Maya. Krishna, his expansions, and even his higher degrees never fall into clutches of illusion. Lord Chaitanya came to earth to preach Krishna Bhakti, love of Krishna. In other words, he is Lord Krishna himself. The living entity is the proper way to approach Krishna. He is like a teacher who seeing a student do poorly, takes up a pencil and writes, saying, "Do it like this." See, by this one must not foolishly think that the teacher is learning his ABCs. Although he appears in the guise of a devotee, we should always remember that Lord Chaitanya is Krishna himself, teaching us how to become Krishna conscious, and we must study him in that light.
Hare Krishna. I guess if you don't have a mic, the sound doesn't come properly. So in online, it will become difficult. Fine. In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna sets forth the highest religious principle in this way. Sarvadharman parityajamamekam sharanam sarvapapebhyo mokshashyami ma sutaha. This may seem to be a simple instruction to follow. All right. We'll have somebody from the boys here. At least you'll be able to speak properly. Go ahead. Just make sure internet is good. Who is going ahead? All right, Rishikesh Prabhu, go ahead.
This may seem to be a simple instruction to follow, but invariably our reaction is, "Oh, surrender, give up, but I have so many responsibilities." And Maya illusion says to us, "Don't do it, or you'll be out of my clutches. Just stay in my clutches, and I'll kick you." It is a fact that we are constantly being kicked by Maya, just as male ass is kicked in the face by she ass when he comes for sex. Similarly, cats and dogs are always fighting and whining when they have sex. These are the tricks of nature. Even an elephant in the jungle is caught by the use of a trained she elephant who leads him into a pit. Maya has many activities, and in the material world, her strongest shackle is the female. Of course, in actuality, we are neither male nor female, for these designations refer only to outer dress, the body. We are all actually Krishna's servant. In conditioned life, However, we are shackled by the iron chains which take the form of beautiful women. Thus, every male is bound by sex life, and therefore, when one attempts to gain liberation from the material clutches, he must first learn to control the sex urge. Unrestricted sex puts one fully in the clutches of illusion. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu officially renounced this illusion at the age of 24. Although his wife was 16 and his mother 70, and he was the only male member of the family. Although he was a Brahmana and was not rich, he took sannyasa, the renounced order of life, and thus extracted himself from the family entanglement.
Hare Krishna. So briefly spoken about here. I see myself to be spotlighted here. What happened? Hare Krishna. So here, Srila Prabhupada is speaking about when it comes to surrender, then our mind gives so much tricks. Oh, surrender? How can I surrender? I have so much responsibility, etc. And the material energy would not, or the Maya would not allow us to surrender. And what happens when we don't surrender? We nonetheless keeps getting kicked from material energy. And then Prabhupada talks about sexual entanglement. And he gives an example of some animals. It talks about an ass being kicked on the face, and talks about elephant. The mighty elephant gets caught through the trick of female elephant. And like this, Prabhupada says that we are caught up in the clutches of Maya because of this sexual attraction. But who is male, who is female? This is all bodily designations. For Atma, it doesn't exist. And for us to set ourselves apart or free from this, flimsy identifications, we have to take to the path of bhakti. And there, Prabhupada gives an example of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He taught by his own example at a very young age. He took sannyas. So we have to come out of this whole illusion and attachment to opposite sex. That's the point. If we wish to become fully Krishna conscious, we have to give up the shackles of Maya. If we remain with Maya, we should live in such a way that will not be subjected to illusion. It is not necessary for one to abandon his family, for there were many householders among Lord Chaitanya's closest devotees. What must be renounced is a propensity for material enjoyment. Although Lord Chaitanya approved of a householder having a regulated sex in marriage, he was very strict with those in the renounced order. He even banished Junior Haridas for glancing lustfully at a young woman. The point is that one must take up a particular path and stick to it, obeying all the rules and regulations necessary for success in spiritual life. It was Lord Chaitanya's mission that he teach the path of Krishna consciousness to all men, and thereby enable them to partake of the immortality of spiritual life. Now Prabhupada speaks about what do we learn from Chaitanya Charitamrita. From Chaitanya Charitamrita, we learn how Chaitanya taught people to become immortal. And thus the title may be properly translated as the immortal character of the living force. The supreme living force is the supreme personality of God. It is also a supreme entity. There are innumerable living entities, and all of them are individual. This is very easy to understand. We are all individual in thoughts and desires, and the Supreme Lord is also an individual person. He is different, though, in that he is the leader, for the one whom no one can excel. Tadejeti tanejeti tadure tadvantike tadantarasya sarvasya tadyu sarvasya bhayataha. He is different, though, in that he is the leader, the one who no one can excel. All amongst the created living entities, one being can excel another in capacity or another. The Lord is an individual, just as the living entities are individual. But he is different, that he is a supreme individual. God is infallible. Therefore, another name for Krishna is Achyuta, one who never falls down. This is indicated because in Bhagavad-gita, Arjuna had fallen into delusion, but Krishna had not. We often hear it said that God is infallible. In Bhagavad-gita, it is stated, Nanyam gunebhaya kartaram yada drashtanupashyati gunebhayascha param vedi madhavavam sadhigacchati. Point in chapter verse number 19. When you see that there's nothing beyond these modes of nature in all activities, and the Supreme Lord is transcendental to all these modes, then you can know my spiritual nature. Hare Krishna. Mother Rima, read the next paragraph. Thus, we should not think Krishna is overpowered by the material potency.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dhanvat Pranam. If we wish to become fully consciousness, we have to give up the shackles of Maya. Or if we remain with Maya, we should live in such a way that we will not be subject to illusion.
No. I have already read that, Mother. You have to go 2 paragraphs after and then read. I just read the 2 paragraphs.
Prabhuji, when you see Wala,
Uske agra para, next paragraph. Thus, we should not think.
yeah, sorry. Thus, we should not think that Krishna is overpowered by the material potency when he is in the material world. Krishna and his incarnations are not under the control of material nature. They are totally free. Indeed, in Srimad Bhagavatam, one who has a godly nature is actually defined as one who is not affected by the modes of material nature. Although in material nature, if even a devotee can attain this freedom, then what to speak of the Supreme? The real question is, how can we remain unpolluted?
Hare Krishna. Yeah.
Krishna.
We just pause here. I mean, this is a big summary which is mentioned here. I guess, and there won't be much for me to explain here also. So I will do one thing. I'll give you a brief presentation of it and summarize this. And you can all take it as a homework. I'm thinking we'll start with chapter 1. Otherwise, our chapter 1 will just not start. Is it okay? So all of you also read it, and I'll also read this whole introduction and give you the summary. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. These are the 10 or 15 key points which Prabhupada has mentioned here. Like that, we'll do that. Let's start with teachings of Lord, teachings to Rupa Goswami. It's here discussion about what Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructed. We're in chapter 1. Let's begin with that. All right, Mother Rima, read the first paragraph of chapter 1. Srila Rupa Goswami.
Chapter 1, teachings to Rupa Goswami. Srila Rupa Goswami, the younger brother of Sanatan Goswami, went to Prayag, the modern city of Allahabad, with his younger brother Vallabh. When the two brothers heard that Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was staying there, they both became very happy and went to see the Lord. At that time, the Lord was on his way to visit the temple Bindu Madhav. On the way to the temple, the Lord was chanting and dancing, and thousands of people were following him. Some of these people were crying, and some were laughing. Some were dancing, and some were singing, and some were falling on the ground, offering obeisances to the Lord. In all cases, all of them were roaring the holy name of Krishna. It is said that in spite of being at the confluence of the rivers Ganga and Yamuna, Prayag was never flooded under the appearance of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, at which time the city was overflooded by love of Krishna.
So Prayag for the first time got flooded, but not flooded because of the water, flooded with the love of Krishna when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu reached there. Ravi Prabhu, the two brothers Rupa and Vallabha. Kindly unmute.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yes.
Dandavad Pranam. Yeah. The two brothers, Rupa Goswami and Vallabh, stayed aloof in an uncrowded place and witnessed the great crowd and wonderful scene. When the Lord danced, he raised his arms and shouted, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. The people all about him were astonished to see his wonderful activities. After visiting the temple, the Lord accepted prasad, food offered to the deity, at the house of Deccanist Southern Brahman. While at the Brahman's home, the Lord was visited by Rupa Goswami and Vallabh. From a distance, the two brothers fell down on the ground to offer obeisances, and they chanted many Sanskrit verses from the scriptures. When the Lord saw Rupa Goswami offering obeisances before him, he became very pleased and asked him to get up. The Lord then informed Rupa Goswami of the costless mercy of Krishna upon him. For Krishna had just delivered him from a materialistic way of life based simply on pound, shilling, pence.
Continue.
The Lord accepted the two brothers as his own devotees, and he cited one verse from the scriptures which stated that it is possible for a Brahman who has studied the four Vedas to be not accepted as a devotee of the Lord, and that a pure devotee could come from a very low family and yet be accepted by him. That the Lord embraced the two brothers and out of his causeless mercy touched their heads with his lotus feet. Being blessed in this way, the brothers offered prayers to the Lord in their own words. The prayers indicated that Lord Shri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was Krishna himself, and that he had assumed the form and fair complexion of Chaitanya and was thus known as Gaurang, the golden one, and that he was the most munificent incarnation of Krishna because he was distributing love of Krishna. Srila Rupa Goswami also quoted one verse which was later found in the book Govinda Lamrit 1.2.
Let me surrender unto the lotus feet of Shri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is the most merciful personality of Godhead. He delivers those souls who are merged in ignorance and offers them the highest gift, love of Krishna, thus makes them meet for Krishna consciousness. Yognyanamatam bhuvanam dayalur laghayam api akarod pramattam swaprema sampat Shuddhaya Adbhutaham Shri Krishna Chaitanyam Amam Prapadye. I surrender. All right, Mother Yagya. After this incident, so the first interaction of Rupa and that has been not the first interaction actually. And this is probably the second interaction which is happening now when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is returning from Vrindavan and Rup and Vallabh have escaped from the kingdom of Nawab Hussain Shah, and they were told Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is in Vrindavan, so they were going in that direction, and they eventually got to know that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is returning. Now he's in Prayagraj, so they both reached Prayagraj, and they both met Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That's the point which is described here. Okay, after this incident, what happened?
Dandavat Pranam Prabhuji. After this incident, Vallabh invited the Lord to go to the other side of the Ganges, and the Lord went. On this trip, Rupa Goswami accompanied the Lord, and indeed, wherever the Lord went, Rupa Goswami would follow him and stay with him. Because the Lord felt inconvenience in crowded places, he asked Rupa Goswami to accompany him to a place on the banks of the Ganges known as the Shashvamedha Ghat. For 10 days, he instructed Rupa Goswami about the truth of Krishna, the principles of devotional service, and the transcendental mellows relationship with Krishna. All of this was described in full detail so that in the future, Rupa Goswami could distribute the science of Krishna in his book, Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu. Srila Rupa Goswami described this incident in the first verse of Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu, in which he speaks of the causeless mercy of the Lord upon him.
Continue.
The Supreme Lord is cognizant and all-powerful, and by his causeless mercy, he empowers a living entity to receive his mercy. People in general, being under the spell of conditioned life, are averse to rendering devotional service and practicing Krishna consciousness. They are unaware of the teachings of Krishna consciousness, which reveal one's eternal relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the process by which one can return to the spiritual world, and the ultimate goal of life, which is to return home back to Godhead. Because these things are unknown to the conditioned soul, Lord Chaitanya, out of his causeless mercy, instructed Rupa Goswami in the principles of devotional service. Later, Rupa Goswami distributed this science to the people in general. In the prologue to Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu 1.1.2, Rupa Goswami describes Lord Chaitanya as follows.
Hridiyasya prernaya pravartito aham varak rupopi tasya harihe pada kamalam vande chaitanya devasya. I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality Godhead known as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Because due to his inspiration, I feel the desire within my heart to write something about devotional service. For this reason, I am engaged in writing this book on the science of devotion known as Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu. Yes, and shall prove. When Lord Chaitanya began his instructions.
When Lord Chaitanya began his instructions to Rupa Goswami, he first told him, "My dear Rupa, the science of devotional service is just like the great ocean.
Green ocean.
Great ocean. And it is not possible to show you all its length and breadth. However, I shall try to explain the nature of that ocean by taking just one drop out of it. In this way, you can taste it and understand what that ocean of devotional service actually is.
All right. Continue.
The Lord then explained that within this Brahman or universe, there are innumerable living entities who, according to their own fruitive activities, are transmigrating from one species of life to another and from one planet to another. In this way, their engagement in material existence
Engagement, not engagement.
engagement in material existence has been continuing since time immemorial.
Hare Krishna. So in the whole paragraph here, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is explaining about how we are inconsequential, insignificant living entity who, with the desire to enjoy this world, is wandering from one species of life to another species of life. And therefore, Prabhupada here quotes the size of a soul, which is 1 by 10,000 part of the tip of hair, like this. And then there are different quotations again from the 10th canto, etc., like this, where if a person has forgotten his constitutional position, he remains bound. But if he understands his constitutional position, he immediately attains full freedom, like this. Reading the last line of the paragraph, if one mistakenly considers his position to be equal to that of the Supreme Lord, he becomes contaminated by the doctrine of Mayavad, and his efforts in transcendental life were rendered ineffective. All right. Mother Medhavani, read the next paragraph.
Hare Krishna Prabhupada Pranam. Lord Chaitanya continued his teachings by pointing out that there are two kinds of living entities, the eternally liberated and the eternally conditioned. The eternally conditioned living entities can be divided into two types, the moving and the non-moving.
Very important discussion. You want to pay attention to this. Yes, go ahead.
Those that remain in one place, trees, for example, are classified as tavara or non-moving entities, and those that move, such as birds and beasts, are called jangama or moving entities. The moving entities are further divided into three categories: those that fly in the sky, those that swim in the water, and those that walk on land. Out of the many millions and trillions of living entities on land, human beings are very few. Out of that small number of human beings, most are totally ignorant of the spiritual science, are unclean in their habits, and have no faith in the existence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In short, most human beings live like animals. Therefore, these can be deducted from the number of human beings that constitute civilized human society.
Continue.
We can hardly find any human beings who believe in the Vedic scriptures and the existence of God, or even in proper behavior. Those who do believe in these things and in advancing in spiritual life are known as Aryans. Out of those who believe in the scriptures and the advancement of human civilization, there are two classes, the righteous and the unrighteous. Those who are righteous generally execute fruitive activities to derive some good result for sense gratification. Out of many such persons who engage in righteous activities for sense gratification, only a few come to know about the absolute truth. These are called jnanis, empiric philosophers in search of the absolute truth. Out of many hundreds and thousands of such empiric philosophers, only a handful actually attain liberation. When one is liberated, he theoretically understands that the living entity is not composed of material elements, but as a spirit soul distinct from matter. Simply by understanding this doctrine, even theoretically, one qualifies as a mukta or liberated soul. But the actual mukta is he who understands his constitutional position as part and parcel of the Lord and his eternal servant, and as his eternal servant. Such liberated souls engage with faith and devotion in the service of the Lord, and they are called Krishna Bhaktas or Krishna conscious persons. Krishna Bhaktas are free from all material desires.
Hare Krishna. So let's take a look at graphically what is being described here. I hope you're able to see the screen and we'll all kind of draw it here, what's happening here. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says there are two kind of beings. One is called as, what is that called as in Sanskrit? Eternally liberated and eternally conditioned.
Nitya
Nitya Baddha and Nitya Mukta. So, Nitya Mukta and Nitya Baddha. Now, what does conditioned living entity Nitya Baddha, which means he has been conditioned for a long time. It doesn't mean that he doesn't have any scope of liberation. The eternally conditioned living beings are then divided into two parts. One is moving, and other is non-moving. It's a great science which is being described here. Therefore, I'm kind of paying attention and want to draw it graphically. Moving and non-moving. What is an example of non-moving? Which cannot move like trees. This is non-moving living entity, like this. And then there are birds and bees. They're called as moving entity. And these moving entity are further divided into three categories. What are the three categories? Go ahead, quickly. You just read the purport. What are the three categories of moving living entities? Sky, then those who can swim in water, and third, land. So these are the living entities who are land-based, water-based, and sky-based. And out of this, and what is the population here? A lot of time people ask population explosion. These are unlimited. No count. Can you count them? Yes or no? Among these millions and trillions of living entities, even on land, there are unlimited entities. And among these unlimited living entities on land comprises a tiny fraction, a very small portion of what is called as human being. And these humans today are saying there is a population explosion. God knows what is population. Out of that small number of human beings, now there are different categories of humans. Mostly all are ignorant of spiritual life, unclean in their habits, have no faith in the existence of Supreme Personality of Godhead. In short, most human beings live like animals. So almost 99% and more are animals. Not social animal, jungle animals. Not jungle animals, more ferocious than jungle animals. At least lions don't eat lions. Humans kill humans. So wild and dangerous we are. These kind of animals. Then a very small number in that is called as civilized. This civilized human race was traditionally called as Aryans. This is, you can say, probably less than 1% today. And what is the civilized human being or human race? Civilization doesn't mean based on your economic growth. Civilization means based on your understanding of life, your training based on Vedic sciences. So not necessarily people today having a skyscraper building are civilized because they are killing innocent animals and eating them. So what is the difference between an animal living in a skyscraper building and an animal wandering in the forest and eating animals? Is there a difference? Logically, there is no difference. They're same. So animals, humans living like animals, which are 99%, and there is less than 1% civilized human beings. Among these civilized human beings, very few are those who believe in scriptures or existence of the God. You know, those who do believe in the value are known as Aryans. So then there are one who lives their life according to Shastras. And then there are others who just live their life. This is a discussion coming from the 17th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, where Arjuna asks, what about those who very faithfully serves other Devadas? They do not know Shastra, but they faithfully serve other Devatas. That is the two categories here. So civilized human being, then you have them civilized human beings divided into scriptures and live their life. And this civilized human beings, 99% public live their life on their own. Only hardly 1% may know what scriptures says about it. All right. Out of those who believe scriptures, there are further two categories of or divisions of human beings. What are those? One is said to be righteous, and other is said to be unrighteous. Correct? Hang on, don't lose the discussion here. Huh? Those who are righteous generally execute fruitive activities in order to derive some good results. So those who are righteous, they are called as karma kandas or karma kandis. Correct? Out of many such persons who engage in righteous activities for sense gratification, only a few come to know the absolute truth. So there he said there are two classes, righteous and unrighteous. Those who are righteous generally execute fruitive activities. What do you know? What do you mean by those who believe in scriptures? There also there are two categories, righteous and unrighteous. People like Hiranyakashipu. He knew scriptures, but he used scriptures for his own abuse or exploitation. That's a category of righteous and righteous. Within that also, there is a lesser percentage of people who are righteous. In that, there are karma kandis. Majority are karma kandis. And then some very few may come to know absolute truth. So in this, very few people go to the platform of becoming jnanis. What is that? Bhunanam janmanamante jnanavan mam prapadyate. And only very few people in this category, very, very few, attain the goal of life, moksha. That's the goal of Purushartha also. Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. Handful, you can literally say handful people come here. When one is liberated, he theoretically understands the living and is not composed of itna. Simply by theoretical understanding the option, one can be liberated, but actually a mukta liberated soul is he who understands the constitutional position eternal servant of the Lord. Such liberated soul engage with faith and devotion in the service of the Lord, they are called Krishna. Now, among those who are liberated, you can further divide, have categories. One, among this also, 99% population merges into Brahman. And only 1% may know Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So rare is Krishna Bhakti. If you look at the whole graph here, among millions and billions and trillions of living entities, so rare are the Krishna Bhaktas. So rare. And how lightly at times we take their association. Although we associate with them, we find fault with them. We criticize Vaishnavas, who in this unlimited living entities are only very few. How grateful we should be now to have their association. I'll read the next paragraph and then we'll pause from here. Krishna Bhaktas are free from all material desires. Those who are liberated theoretically by knowing simply that the living entity is not material may still have desires, although they may be technically classified amongst liberated souls. Their main desire is to become one with the Supreme Personality Godhead. Generally, such persons are very much attached to Vedic rituals and righteous activities, performing them in order to enjoy material prosperity, dharma, kama, moksha. Even when some of them transcend material enjoyment, they still try to enjoy the spiritual world by merging into the existence of the Supreme Lord. Some of them are also desirous of attaining mystic power through the execution of yoga. As long as he desires are within one's heart, he cannot understand the nature of pure devotional service. When one is constantly being agitated by such desire, he is not peaceful. Indeed, as long as there is any desire for material perfection at all, one cannot be at peace. Since, let me going back to the diagram here. Since the devotees of Lord Krishna do not desire anything material, they are only peaceful persons within this world. This is confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam. Muktanam api siddhanam narayana parayana sudullabha prashantatma kotishu api mahamuni. A great sage out of many millions of liberated persons. Let me zoom in. Which means out of millions of such liberated souls, one who is completely devoted to the Supreme Personality of Godhead and who is filled with peace is very, very difficult to find. One who is in true sense can be called as a devotee of Krishna is very, very difficult to find. So if you look at our journey here, where we began with, our journey began from here. So Jivatmas, we're talking about Jiva. And this whole journey is a journey of desire, the purification of desire. So there are two kinds of beings, moving and non-moving. Non-moving are like trees, moving are further divided into three. Well, those who live in sky, those who live on land, those who live on water. Those who live on land, and that only a fraction of population is of humans. And that human population, 99% and more, live like animals only. They continue their brotherhood with cats and dogs and cockroaches. And in that 1% civilized human beings, which is called as Aryan race, only 1% of them believe in scriptures, while 99% just follow the whims of their minds. In that 1% of the population who believes in scripture, there are two categories, righteous, unrighteous. Unrighteous are those who misuse scripture for their own agenda. Righteous are those, the righteous path begins from Karmakandi, who know scripture and who follow scripture for fulfilling four dharmas, called as Purushartha. Among those Karmakandis, only very few people come to an understanding of, I am not this body but spiritual. They come to the platform of Jnani. And on those Jnani, only handful attain liberation. And out of those millions of Jnanis who have attained liberation, which is extremely rare, only handful of people know Krishna to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Hare Krishna. And this is the whole journey of purification of our desire. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, Prabhu, अपने यहाँ तो भरे पड़े हैं, इतने भक्त हैं, इतने कृष्णा प्रेमी हैं अपने यहाँ, हमारे किसी भी प्रोग्राम में जाओ, संडे फीस्ट में जाओ, कृष्णा प्रेमियों की कमी नहीं होती. वो कृष्णा प्रेमी है, प्रसादम प्रेमी है, वो मैं आपको छोड़ता हूँ निश्चय करने के लिए. But it is not so easy. The journey is long. To think that because I am rotating my beads, I am saying Krishna, Krishna, I am calling out the names of the Lord. It doesn't work like this. That was the subject matter of our Friday morning class. It's a long journey. And in this whole journey, we have somebody who accompanies us all through. And with only one only one goal. I'm talking about one person who accompanies us all through. And that person has only one goal. That is to distract us from this path of spiritual life. And who is that one person who is hell-bent on throwing us off the track? Material energy. And who is the puppet of this material energy, Maya? Our mind. Our mind is nothing but the puppet of Maya. So till the time we live our life based on the whims and the desires of the minds, we continue in the samsara chakra. Going up, then getting kicked, going down, then getting lifted up, coming to Bhuloka, earthly planet. Then based on the karmas that you perform, either you are thrown up or you are thrown down. Like that, our lives continue time after time on the scale of eternity. This is time scale. And here it is said, if this living entity on the scale of eternity can come in contact with the pure Vaishnava, Brahmande, Brahmite Kone, Bhagyavan, Jiva, Guru Krishna Prasada Pai, Bhakti Lata Beach, then such a living entity has a hope to come out of this whole vicious cycle. And therefore, knowing this truth, Srila Prabhupada told young Bhakti Charu Maharaj or Brahmachari that time, I don't know, probably Brahmachari, that why don't you dedicate one lifetime for Krishna service? You have given so many lifetimes for the service of Maya Devi and for your mind. Just dedicate one life in the service of Krishna. Your life would be successful and you will help others also succeed in their life. Hare Krishna. Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Reading the last paragraph because this subject matter gets covered over. In this way, Lord Chaitanya explained there are many thousand millions of living entities born in the material world. One who, by the grace of Krishna and special master, gets a seat of devotion service is very rare and fortunate. A pious or religious man is generally inclined to worship deities in various temples. But if by chance, even without his knowledge, he offers his obeisances to Vishnu, he receives the favor of a Vaishnava. He at that time acquires the asset necessary to approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is clearly understood from the life story of the great sage Narada the boy, not Narada Muni, from his past life, which is related in Srimad Bhagavatam. By serving Vaishnavas in his previous life, Narada was favored by the devotees of the Lord and became great sage. Indeed, among sages, Narada Muni is considered to be the greatest sage. If you look at it, can you see how rare is association of devotees? How rare. And in that, how rare is the association of advanced devotee. Everyone does not become an advanced devotee. And this, how rare is association of an advanced, or you can call it a pure devotee, whatever you want to call it. So now I'll conclude with this. If you have an opportunity, which is so rare, if you get an opportunity to associate with them, what should you do? Should you think or should you run? We don't think, we run. We just run. Leave everything beside. Hell with everything. Nothing doing. That lolium has to be first created. If that clarity or lolium, that even that much greed has not come in our heart, where we are eager to associate with Vaishnavas like this. Not every Vaishnava. We're talking about advanced Vaishnavas, who we know are very advanced. And we have an opportunity to associate with them. And even still, we continue on with our life. All the best. Forget about having lolium for Krishna's association. First, lolium has to come for associating with his Vaishnavas. Again, I'm making a point. Vaishnava refers to advanced devotees, pure Vaishnavas here. At least we should have that. And you should ask yourself, how much do we take an opportunity or advantage of such associations? Okay, so with that, we conclude here. The whiteboard is going to come up again and again, because I'm going to use it to explain the sometimes tricky concepts of discussions. So you might see my whiteboard again and again. So we'll pause here. I'm glad we started TLC finally. We were too much into introduction. You read the introduction at your length, and here we'll get to know all the teachings. So this is some initial instruction that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught to Srila Rupa Goswami. All right. Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai. Okay, so thank you all for joining in. I am mostly here this week available, so we'll catch up Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday as of now. So we'll see you tomorrow morning also for TLC. Hare Krishna.